What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. My name is Amir, and I'm joined again today with my buddy Neil. How's it going, Neil?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Almost Thursday, so just a couple more days of work this week till the weekend. So excited for that.
Nice.
Everything good with you?
Yeah, it's football season, so I can pass some time until NBA comes back in a few weeks. So looking forward to talking with you about some NBA today.
Sounds good. So before I get into today's video, just want to thank everybody for their continued support. If you could subscribe to the channel, it would mean a lot to me. I'm on my path to getting 400 subscribers, so getting relatively close. So if you could sub to the channel, it would mean a lot. So for today's video, just want to talk about a few topics. And so, of course, want to talk about the latest reports that have come out regarding Damian Lillard. And also wanted to talk about a new rule that's been put in place with load management and resting players in general, but specific stars. So first on the Damian Lillard front, there's been so many reports since Dame requested a trade on July 1st. So it's been 2.5 months at this point, where Dame has been held hostage by the Portland Trailblazers. And obviously he wants to come home to his new home in Dade, aka Wade County. So conflicting reports, but like all summer long, basically Cronin during his presser at the end of the season said it could take months. He's gonna do his due diligence, wait for the best deal possible. And then that stood true. And there's reports saying that the teams have not even talked. There's speculation they would talk like in Vegas during Summer League. They didn't talk. And then after the tournament, still no talks during the dog days of summer. Basically, Portland was saying, we don't like the deal. We want more, right? And Miami was like, tell us what more is. You're not telling us what more is because we're the only offer on the table. We're not going to outbid ourselves. So there's been lots of reports saying there's no negotiation. They can't come to terms. And then there was a report maybe 3 weeks ago that said closer to training camp is when they'll talk, right? Execs are like off during the summer. They have a break. They work almost year round, right? They only get like a month or two off throughout the entire year, calendar year. So there was reports saying they'll talk. Then there was more reports subsequently after that, Neil, saying they aren't going to talk. There's no negotiation. Nothing's happening, and blah 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 blah. It's just Bleacher Report, ESPN, all these publications reporting the same garbage, basically. Shams, I think, came out a few days ago saying, again, reiterating the teams, it's getting closer to training camp, which is October 2nd, right? So teams they're gonna get together and eventually talk. So that report was recycled again. And then there was also something that Shams said with there's conflicting reports. One came out saying that Dame would report only to Miami and Portland. And then a day later, there was a report that came out that said Dame would pretty much report anywhere if he had to. Did you see any of those reports? And if not, what are your thoughts? Do you think Dame is saying that he will report to any other team because of that whole memo thing that we talked about in the past, right? And getting reprimanded by the NBA saying you can't say you're not going to show up. What are your thoughts in general?
Is that the news that came out today where Dame was like, if I got traded to some random destination, I would still show up and play?
Yep.
He's probably just trying to win the court of public opinion. And we've talked about how he was joking around and sending hints about how Miami was the one and only destination. And now he's just probably just trying to win in the court of public opinion and be like a true soldier that's just going to play wherever he goes. But it doesn't really change much for me. It's Miami makes the most sense, and those are that's the active offer on the table right now. So I don't see how this statement that he made is gonna change anything. I think mostly it's more about with Portland. It's more about if he doesn't get traded, he's not just going to sit out and boycott until he gets traded. This statement just seems to suggest that if he is on Portland, he's going to show up and play and give 100%, which is really consistent with what we know about Dame. So it doesn't really seem to make much news for me because I would be very surprised if he got traded someone else. Someone would really have to come in at the last minute with some great Godfather offer and then he ends up in a different location that's not Miami.
Yep, and I've been saying it on many videos that no one else wants Damian Lillard for different reasons, and a big reason is he said Miami only, right? That's one big factor. They know that he wants to go there, and so they're hoping, or he's hoping, that the team he was loyal to will abide, this request. So that's one. Two is his contract and his age. He's going to turn 34, which I didn't know, before the season starts. I think soon. So he's going to be 34, and he still has 4 years left on his contract. So and he's got 215 mil. Like, how many teams are willing to take on Dame in that contract right now that makes the most sense? That's the best fit possible. Think about all the contenders, which we can go through real quick. Because I know we talked a while back, and you said you think it makes sense that Joe Cronin's doing this, right? Like, you think that like him holding out forever makes the best sense until the Feb deadline, until he gets a better deal or any other deal, I guess, which would make Miami have to put in more assets, right? Like, if anybody else comes in and says, we're interested, here's the package, then Miami's like, okay, cool. Then you have to put in another piece. So Joe is going to wait. Obviously, that's evident. But that report, though, did come out a few days ago saying that the teams are going to start negotiating once it's closer to camp, right? So, um, do you still think it's possible? Like, what are your thoughts? Do you still believe that Joe is going to hold out to the regular season and hope that this magical team comes out of nowhere and makes this Godfather offer? Or do you think it could be done before the regular season starts, which is like what, close to Halloween, October 20th, 30th, whatever that range is? Do you think they'll have enough time from, ideally Miami wants him in camp, obviously, for media day, and so you can get familiar with the team versus starting like a week before the season. So what are your thoughts now, since that was a while ago when we talked about this?
Well, if we're going to assume that no other team is going to come in with some great offer, then Cronin is only negotiating with one team, which is Miami. So if he's not seeing this offer get better in a significant way, I don't see why he should pull the trigger quickly. But if Miami were to upgrade the offer and make something significantly better, that's the only way I could see this getting done before training camp. Otherwise, it would be in Cronin's best interest, as I said in a previous podcast. He should see what he has with Dame and Scoot and Anthony Simons and Shaden Sharp. So it really is dependent on whether or not the offer that Miami's bringing to the table gets better. And as you mentioned earlier, there was the summer period where there wasn't any negotiations happening. They've had a chance to kind of sit on stale information, think things through. So maybe Miami comes in and they decide to come up with a better offer. And if they do that, then I could see the trade getting through. But knowing Pat Riley, I don't see that being the case. He'll probably play a strong hand, stay firm on what his original offer was. And if that is the way the proceedings go, then I would expect Dame to suit up and play for the Blazers. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's going to happen. Not being biased, it just makes zero sense. If Cronin thinks, what does he think's going to happen? They play Dame, and he just decides, okay, I just want to like stay here now forever, and I love it. Like, what are they going to do the following year? Like, what superstar? How are they going to make their team even better the following year? Like, you have Scoot Henderson, you have Sharp, who's a second-year player, you have Simons, who's a third-year player. These guys are all super young and they didn't even make the play-in last year. Like, what are they going to do? Like, they're not going to compete. Dave's turning 34. Like I said, he wants to compete. Like, what's the point? He's not going to change his mind. What's the best he can hope for by playing Dame on the team? It's idiotic, in my opinion. Like, I kind of want to question your thoughts. Why the hell you think they would even want Dame? Like, you're a freaking young team that you drafted his literal replacement. They drafted a freaking 6'2" point guard to take his spot, essentially, because they couldn't trade him because there was no one to be traded for, apparently, right? There's no superstar that was available for the third pick, which was Scoot. So, like, what's the point? Why don't they pull the Houston Rockets, the Jazz, the Thunder, and play with young teams, right? Let them freaking get experience, figure it out, be shitty, lose, and like, you're tanking, but like with intention, and you're not actually tanking. Like, you're just letting your young future stars play together, build chemistry, and develop, get some experience in minutes. They're going to lose anyway. Like the Rockets suck for the last 3 years, but like now they like have saved up money. They got like what's his name, Thompson, Asir Thompson, like whatever third pick, fifth pick, whatever it was, Jalen Green. They got Jabari. Right now they've added some vets. Same thing with OKC. Right, like they got Shea, and then they got Chet, and then they got the Jalen Williams dudes, and they got Giddy and all those guys. Like, what's the point? Why would you want Damian Lillard on your team to even win 5 extra games when that can mean a lottery ball that's going to get you the fifth or sixth pick versus the second pick, right? Like, you should just want to tank. Like, what's the point of bringing in Dame? Also, Dame, what's if he gets hurt? He's 34 years old. Like, you get older, you get hurt more often, right? When you're older, what's the point? He tweaks his ankle, he's out for months, and who's going to want him? Like, he tears his ACL, it's over. He's not going to. No one's going to trade for him. So
I'm not going to disagree with anything that you're saying right now, but I think the thing that Portland really has on their side is time, because they have Dame locked up under contract for 4 years. So if they play Dame and he plays great, that's only going to increase his trade value as people start to remember what he brings to the table. So that could theoretically make an offer that you get for him better. It would be a very difficult situation, and Cronin's hand would be forced if Dame was a free agent next year. Then he would be like, okay, I need to trade him now. But because Dame is under contract for a period of time, Cronin has the luxury of seeing what he has and then making a more educated decision as more time comes in. That's really what I'm saying.
No, stupid argument, because they already know what the hell Dame has to offer. He's only getting older. Like, who cares if what are they going to be like? Oh wow, Dame still got it. He averaged 33 points and 7.5 assists last year. Like, he played 60 games or so, and he missed like 10 because they tanked on purpose. Like, they said, like, we don't want to make the play-in. We want to get Scoot. We want to get whatever Miller, whoever else is in this draft. They sat him on purpose. Like, what's going to change? That's the thing. Like, I think he's just trying to squeeze out one more asset from the Miami Heat or two more players from the Miami Heat. And they're hoping Dame might say another team or change his mind, and that hasn't happened. So they have the contract, they have the player, but like, what's going to change? Dame is still an all-star, a top 2-3 point guard in the NBA, a top 12, 15 player overall in the NBA. Still, like, people know he wants to play for Miami. Like, what's going to change? Like, he says he still wants to play for Miami, and he's old and his contract isn't the best, but Miami's willing to do it because he's within Jimmy's timeline, right? So like, him and Jimmy both are hungry. They want to play with each other. He wants to play with Bam. He wants to play with Caleb Martin on the Heat. So I'm looking at some teams. Name a contender. He wants to go to a contender, right? Otherwise, like, he's not going to give it his all. I'm sure he says he would, but what team needs a point guard? It's a contender. Like, he's not going to go to a shitty team. Name a contender. The Boston Celtics, maybe. Okay, but like, what are they going to give up? They have no money. They gave Jaylen Brown the bag. Tatum's up next, like in a year, right? Like, they don't have that many draft picks. So they don't have the right pieces that are necessarily way better than Miami. And he already shut it down. He already said in a report, Tatum has been recruiting me and I don't want to go there. I only want to go to Miami. Jason Tatum recruited him this summer. He said no to him, basically. So what other contender? Dallas, they got 2 point guards. Nuggets, they got Jamal Murray. Like, the Sixers,
maybe a little lower than the top 2 or 3 teams. Maybe like
he's 34 years old. He doesn't want to go anywhere else, and he would
say, yeah, no, I hear you. That's what makes this such an interesting situation, is that he's clearly outlined where he wants to go, but Portland knows that they have the luxury of time. It's not like they're going to lose him for nothing if they stand pat. So why don't you just play him and just be difficult to negotiate with, so you get something better out of the offer, right? That's the stance that Cronin has taken so far, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that he's going to get off of that stance unless he gets something that blows him away.
I don't know. I think that's dumb. Waiting till the trade deadline, risk injury for Damian Lillard, then who's going to trade him? And then he might sit out, and then you're going to get even less. If he sits out, he's not Ben Simmons, but he might pull Ben Simmons and sit out. Who knows? You know, like, why would he want to play with Portland? He's going to him and Scoot are going to start together with Simons and Sharp and then Jeremy Grant. Like, what are they going to do? Like, have like a 6'7" and under team? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you take away like minutes from Scoot, Sharp, and Simons to play together and get experience. Like, it makes no sense. Like, why would you
20 years
not?
old.
I'm just, yeah, you're nuts. I don't think this is obviously it's going to happen before training camp. I mean, before the season starts, because no one wants him. That, and there's also reports that said that people think his age and contract and him only wanting Miami is the reason. Like, no one has come out. It's been 2.5 months. Not one single team has come out there as a, like, why would they come now? Is my point during the regular season. Like, he only wants to go to a contender. He's not going to go to Orlando. He's not going to go to the Suns. Obviously, like, they're a contender, obviously, but he's not going to fit with any of the other contenders. The best fit is the Heat in terms of need, and like their assets are not that bad. So, real quick, going into transitioning of who they want Jovic, they want Hawkes, they want 4 picks or whatever. Jovic actually just increased its value. I don't know if you watched the FIBA World Cup, but Serbia went to the finals. He's 20 years old. He played in every game. He had 2 really amazing games, 2 mediocre games, and then 2 solid games, like 2 games where he had like 18, 8 and 5, 25, 5 and 8, like perfect game. He went 9 for 9 in that 25-point game. And then he had like a couple duds where he had like 2 points, 0 points. And then I think he ended out with like 10 points, 9 points for the last few games. But I think it makes a lot more sense that our trade package looks a little bit better when you have a guy who's kind of like a unicorn, 6'11". He can handle the ball. He could shoot. He is a good passer and play. They have no front court, basically. All their young players in Portland are guards. That's why they want Tyler Hero. So get him. I'm okay with giving Hawkes and Jovic. There's so many delusional Heat fans that are so dumb. Like, if we can get Dame for 2 solid years to contend for 2 years in a row, after we were just the 8th seed and made it to the finals, and like Bam's not a superstar, right? Bam's a star, but like he's not a same caliber of Jimmy Butler type of star, right? Like, Jimmy needs help. Like, give up Jovic and Hawkes because like you don't know shit about young players. There's no proof that they're going to be even good. There's no proof that the top 5 player is going to be an all-star type of player, right? So I don't know. Do you think that the trade package looks a little bit better now if they add Jovic and Hawkes and Kyle's expiring contract and like a Duncan Robinson and 4 picks? Let's say Hero goes to a third team and then there's 4 picks, the 2 young guys, Kyle Lowry is an expiring, and whoever else. Like, do you think that's like a better offer now that Joe's like, hey, okay, he did ball out. Like, Hawkes also is a ready now type of rookie who's 22, who showed out really well in college. Do you think that Joe is now thinking maybe like that's why we should negotiate right now? Like, let's talk again before camp because he increased his value during the summer.
One thing I will say about Jovic is that he came up through the international ranks, and the FIBA game is different than the NBA. So it
Totally.
seems very. It's a good situation for Jovic to perform well in the FIBA game. We still need to see what he's got in the NBA. So it's great that he performed well during FIBA. I didn't really get to watch it. It was on in the middle of the night. I know USA choked a few times in that tournament. But
Yep.
it certainly doesn't hurt his value. But I think it's important to realize that the games that are being played in the FIBA context and in the NBA are a little bit different. And it seems like Jovic was able to build up his draft stock and become a prospect based on what he was able to do in the international game,
Yeah.
because he really wasn't able to see the floor much with Miami last year. I know Miami is in a contending position. They're trying to win now. They're playing veterans that have experience. So there wasn't really a place for Jovic to fit. But it certainly didn't hurt his trade value. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally. And so, um, yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, camp comes up in a few weeks, so we'll see if they actually do come to the table and start negotiating, and we'll see how desperate Miami is in terms of adding that extra piece and player right now, to just get it done. I think they will
So when you're
ultimately.
talking about this new deal that might represent something of a upgrade, that would involve the third team and then getting rid of Hero also, and then adding an additional draft pick. Is that how the deal would be shifted?
Yeah, no, well, like, yes, that's like ultimately they never wanted Hero and they wanted 3 to 4 picks. So Miami only has like 2, so they would have to get another from Hero, and then they would want both young players and expiring asset. That's Lowry. So the Rooks. I'll call Jovic a rook because he basically didn't play last year because he got hurt too. So, um, the double J's basically Lowry hero to another team, and I think adding both young people, I guess, on the team or the trade is kind of upping the ante. I think Pat Riley, there was a report that like he was offering just one of those guys. So like just Jovic or Hawkes, who knows? I don't remember which one, but like them, Lowry, some other player, and then the picks. So I think he's going to come back maybe and say, okay, fine, maybe you can have both. And I think Portland ultimately wants them to throw in Caleb Martin, both of them, Kyle Lowry, and the picks. So like 3 or 4 first round picks. Kyle Lowry, 30 million off the books next year, so that's good for them. He can mentor Scoot for a year, play off the bench. And then I think it's like adding Martin and adding Jovic or Hawkes, whoever won. I don't know. It's funny. There's a video now too that surfaced that said that Jimmy Butler and Hawkes have been hanging out during the off season. Like they've been working out, going to the sauna together, and they're actually both filming a commercial that they're going to be in, like a TV commercial. So there's folks saying like, that's odd. Like if this guy was going to get traded, like why is Jimmy being all buddy buddy with him? But I was like, I don't think that means shit. He still can get traded. He's on the team for now, right? So who cares? Like let him do a commercial. I don't know if they're going to be wearing like their Miami Heat jerseys, but Jimmy's been on all those Michelob Ultra commercials. If you've seen, right, he's not wearing any Heat gear. He's dressed like a civilian. So I don't know. Maybe they don't want to include Hawkes, and right now it's gonna be like, okay, fine, we'll give you Jovic, and then maybe have to throw in a Caleb Martin, I guess, which the Miami Heat don't want to do. But I'm all for it, dude. At this point, just give me goddamn Damian Lillard. Take Caleb, take both of those guys, right? Take both the young guys, take Lowry, take the 3 picks, get
You
hero
want
money.
to before the season starts.
Yeah, 100%. Then we're going to get players like Kelly Oubre Jr. said that he would sign with the Heat if Dame comes. So we do lose a lot of depth, but we still would have Damian Lillard as our starting point guard, Josh Richardson, Kelly Oubre, Bam, and Jimmy. And then you have Kevin Love coming off the bench with Orlando Robinson, Thomas Bryant, Haywood Highsmith, Duncan Robinson, perhaps. Then you would have to sign maybe another 2 people, I guess. So Oubre would be one, and then it depends on how many people are going out for the trade. But we might keep Hawkes. Who knows, right? So we still would have some pretty decent depth. I mean, the Heat have actually a lot of depth right now. They just don't have a starting point guard. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, the other topic I just want to touch on too, since I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, is the whole load management thing. Did you see that report come out about the new rule voted by the Board of Governors in the NBA?
Can you refresh my memory? I did see it, but I need to remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it was today. So they put out a ruling saying that they wanted to limit the amount of games healthy players can rest, basically. So minimize load management. Most of the time with load management, it's just healthy scratches. And superstars and all-stars typically have sat out that are a little bit older. The folks that are like in their 30s, like the Kawhis or the PGs that are like more injury prone, right? Those guys typically, even like a Jimmy Butler who's played 62 games, it seems like every year. So he's missing like 20 games himself every regular season. So, but anyway, I guess fans were upset saying like we pay a lot of money and we go to a game and some fans can only afford one game for the entire year. And Kawhi's not playing, Jimmy's not playing, Dame's not playing, whoever's not playing, right? And so they wanted to minimize that for the fans. So they wanted to give them the best experience possible. So the whole thing, though, is they wanted to prevent excessive load management from stars. Stars, not scrubs, because no one gives a shit about
So it's
scrubs.
like only one star could be load managed in a given game or something?
Yeah. So basically, you can't have 2 of your stars resting if you have 2 stars. And most teams have 2 stars, I would say, that qualify. So I was like, what does a star mean? So I'm looking at something up here. So players that qualify as stars, if they made an NBA, all NBA team or all star team within the previous 3 seasons.
So they do have a qualifier. Okay, I was thinking the same thing. It's like how are you going to classify someone as a quote unquote star? But they do have a criteria for that.
Yeah, so like all-star, superstar, whatever, like it doesn't matter. You could be a former superstar if you didn't make the all-star team 3 years in a row. Then you don't qualify. So that's for typically older players, right? Um, like a Kyle Lowry, for example. Um, Bam and Jimmy are the only two on the Heat, and Kyle made an all-star team like in 2018, 19 or something. So it's next year will be 4 seasons for him, so he doesn't qualify. So he's old. He could sit out as much as he wants. But like even him, like if this took effect last season, then Kyle Lowry wouldn't be able to be load managed at age 36 season, right? Because he made it his age 33 season. So if this rule was in place last season, he would have not been able to sit out, which is kind of funny to think about that, right? Because he was an older player who did have a good year in his later 30s. Like Chris Paul would qualify for that as well. So 50 players league wide apparently are designated as folks that have made it to the All-Star game 3 years or 3 years previously. So 50 players, that's a lot of players that, across all the teams, I'm sure every team almost has had, except for a few teams, obviously the young teams like Magic, Thunder, and those types of teams. I think it's just Shea or I don't know. This is Shy Alexander, Shea, whatever. Shy would be the only one that qualifies on that team. So he's not going to be able to sit at all if he's healthy, essentially, right? Because he's the only player. So yeah, I guess no. Actually, could he sit because he's the only
Well, it
player?
would have to be two on a team. Is that the rule?
I don't know. Okay, so here we go.
So
Here are
if
the
like
new.
he's the only one that it like qualifies from the Thunder, then he could sit out anytime he wanted because they wouldn't be sitting two qualified players.
I guess, but that if you have one, then it should be like he shouldn't be able to sit out if he's healthy. If you only have one. Now here we go. Here are the new rules teams must follow. Teams cannot sit more than one player in a single game, one star player in a single game. So that's fair. Teams must ensure healthy star players are available for national TV in-season tournament contests. So there's the answer. If he's healthy, he can't miss national televised games. But it's the Thunder. They don't have many
Yeah,
games.
they play like three televised games.
Yep. Teams must make sure healthy players resting are at games visible to fans. That's a weird one. Teams cannot shut down star players for a long period of time, i.e., in the final 10, 20 games of the season, just like the Portland Trailblazers did with Dame to tank. Teams must maintain a balance of home versus road absences for star players, preferring they rest at home games. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I think it's because
Why would you want to? Because
yeah,
there's more home
41
games.
home games, so a fan in that city would get to see that player multiple times. But if they're traveling, like if OKC is traveling to Atlanta, if there's
True.
a Shea fan in Atlanta, that's the only chance they get to see him.
Yeah, I was just thinking of like poor people. Like they're not going to travel anyway. They can only watch them at home. But I guess they could get screwed then in that sense. I guess certain cohort of people, but interesting. I mean, what do you think? Oh, here we go. So if there's before we get there, if there's a violation of these rules, teams will be fined 100K for the first offense, 250K for the second, and an additional $1 million after that. I'm for it.
This is something that the owners are probably pushing onto the NBA for them to do it. The NBA is really making some clear efforts to try and police the game in any way they can. I think they have a rule now where if you don't play a certain percentage of the games, you can't be eligible for All NBA or Defensive Player of the Year, that kind of thing, and that has an impact on what someone's max could be. So the NBA is really taking some pretty dramatic measures to try to curb tanking, and it's been a problem for several years now. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. So I give credit to the NBA for trying this. This seems like the owners are really pushing this on, and Adam Silver's like, okay, we'll do you solid and put these rules in place. It sounds like they have the criteria that is going to evaluate whether someone qualifies for this. So they put a lot of thought into this, and it'll be interesting to see how it's policed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I think load management's not that great, especially for the fans' perspective. It makes sense though. I get it why some players have to do it, but
And clearly, the NBA is trying to make the regular season more interesting. I'm really interested to see how the in-season tournament plays out this year. It seems kind of gimmicky to a lot of people, but they do this in European soccer. And if some middle of the pack team, like if Cleveland won the in-season tournament, that would be a trophy that they got. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same as the NBA Finals, but it's still something to hang your hat on. And that's something that they might actually be able to win if some of the top tier teams aren't really trying that hard in the in-season tournament. So it'll be interesting to see, like 5 to 7 years from now, what the in-season tournament looks like.
yeah, I don't care about it.
I think that's the general reaction in the first year. It's going to take a while for people to start caring for it. But that's what they said about the playing game. Now people are starting to buy into the playing game now that we've seen it play out over a couple years. I kind of have the same expectation about the in-season tournament.
Yeah, I didn't care for the play-in. I like it though because it makes it more competitive. It makes regular season games more competitive. The teams it prevents from tanking to a certain degree, if you will. But yeah, the in-season tournament doesn't mean it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, who gives a crap if the Cavs win like a 10-game tournament, which are just still considered regular season games? Like, who cares if you denote it as like a tournament? You win like a trophy. No one gives a shit. It's like it's all about the Bill Russell trophy, that like all that matters, right? It's all about the Lombardi trophy. It's all about the Stanley Cup. Like, who cares? Like, who cares if any of those sports, in my opinion, besides soccer is different. Like, I don't know. I don't follow soccer as much at all anymore like I used to, but I don't know. They did it for so long. To your point, maybe it could be something that's kind of cool, but I don't know. There's so many different soccer leagues. There's so many more soccer teams. It's different, right? I don't even know how many teams are in each league. Like 10. There's like there's like 50, 60, 70, 80 like top soccer teams, right? Not maybe not top, but 80 good teams across 4 or 5 leagues, right? So it's different though with basketball. There's only 29 teams. So I get it with soccer. You're like there's so many different teams. There's so many different countries that they play in, right? It's more international, so you get to see people play that don't play each other. So that would be kind of cool if we did like an in-season international tournament where then bring in the FIBA World Cup, hire me to the NBA because I'm a freaking genius. Bring in a team Slovenia. Sucks because the NBA players can't play for those teams, right? Like so, like Aluka wouldn't be playing there, but bring in a Real Madrid, right? That's where Luca played. Bring in a Bayern Munich. That's where like a lot of the players on the Germany team they made it to the finals played. That's thinking now. What do you think about that? Just thinking on my toes. That would be cooler then because that's comparable to soccer, right? Which makes more sense now that I'm thinking about this. A normal in-season tournament doesn't mean shit to me. Honestly, I think I don't know if you could logistically do it international. They would have to make the international teams come to the States, perhaps, but I don't even know if those seasons coincide. I don't know this. I don't know when FIBA basketball goes on. But anyway, thoughts on that? Am I a genius?
Yeah, from an NBA perspective, they have nothing to gain and everything to lose by doing that because if like Cleveland played Real Madrid and they lost to Real Madrid, that would be an embarrassment, right? Because you're from the NBA, you're supposed to win. But for Real Madrid, they're like, great, we get to play against the best league in the world in a tournament that matters for something. So it would be interesting, and maybe in a future iteration we could see something like that. So it's a very interesting idea for sure.
But it's also stupid too. Now that I think of it, like injuries, like oh he got hurt. That's not going to count towards the regular season, I guess. So like, why play even something on the side? I kind of like the idea that the in tournament or the
It's regular
in
season
tournament
game.
goes towards your regular season, so it's not taken away and making you play extra games. So who the hell knows? I don't give a shit
I
about
mean,
it.
for all we know, someone like Denver might just load manage people during the in-season tournament because they don't really care about it. Who knows? It's going
Exactly.
to be interesting to see if there's any structural shift in the way teams approach the games that are counted as in-season tournament games. But it's just the NBA throwing shit against the wall, seeing what sticks, trying to get some more fan interest. And
Totally.
I kind of like it that they're willing to experiment with things, even with these load management rules that seem really complicated to enforce. It just shows that they're trying to make their product as good as possible for the fans. So I got to respect that.
Same. It's one of my favorite products. That and NFL. Anyway, thanks for joining me tonight, Neil. We can end it there. That was a fun conversation, except for your stupid takes on Joe Cronin holding out and keeping Damian Lillard and playing him in the regular season. I think that's a horrible take.
You would say that as a Heat fan.
Yeah, but like I think I provided more rationale, honestly. Like it makes more sense for the young guys to learn. It makes more sense for them to tank because Damian's going to help them win for the lottery picks, and it makes sense for preserving him so he doesn't get hurt. Because no other team is going to come in. As I said, he's not going to. The other teams don't have the assets, and it just doesn't make complete sense. Otherwise, other teams would have come in by now. It's been 2.5 months, right? And nothing's changed. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks.